Hello, I'm Harp, and welcome to the Rulebook Room once again, the room created for us to understand the legal principles. We are still on the point of how Hindu Marriage Act of 1955 is dealing with bigamous marriage. Section 5, Clause 1 very clearly provides that neither party should have a living spouse at the time of marriage. Further, when you look at Section 11, it also states that a marriage in contravention of Section 5, Clause 1 is null and void. It means the law will not be in a position, if Section 5, Clause 1 has been contravened, to be conferring the status of husband and wife. So it's a marriage void ab initio. It's devoid of any status to begin with. Furthermore, Section 17 makes a bigamous marriage an offense. It is punishable. Today we are looking at S. Nagalingam versus Sivagami 2001 case. Again, here the husband has married for the second time. I'm going to read verbatim passage 6 for you. The essential ingredients of the offense under section 494 IPC are: point number 1, the accused must have contracted the first marriage. Point number 2, whilst the first marriage was subsisting, the accused must have contracted a second marriage. And point number 3, both the marriages must have been valid, in the sense that necessary ceremonies governing the parties must have been performed. After reading the passage, of course, it's clear that while making a complaint under Section 494 IPC, the court is compelled to satisfy the essentials of the particular section. What we learned is that first essential is accused should have contracted the first marriage. Naturally, if there is no first, there cannot be a second marriage. Now then, notice the word subsisting, which is provided under second essential of section 494 of IPC. When you are saying subsisting, it means continuing. If the first marriage is still continuing, it is ongoing, then the rights of the parties are still vested with them. If the first marriage is subsisting, it also means neither the spouse is dead nor the spouse has been divorced. So if it is continuing marriage, then how come the spouse is marrying for the second time? It is a contravention of Section 5, Clause 1, very blatant in its face. And Condition 3 is very important for us to understand. We might confuse ourselves in understanding this third point specified to us in Passage 6, which means that both the marriages should be valid. When you use the word valid, it means conferring of status of husband and wife or giving legitimacy to the act which has been committed. But point number 3 is very basic, plainly helping us to understand that when it says that under section 494 IPC, both the marriages should be valid, it means it should have been performed validly. It means it should have been validly solemnized or validly celebrated by the parties according to whatever customs and rites that they need to perform for the solemnization of their marriage. Point number 3 cannot be read in absence of Section 7 of Hindu Marriage Act of 1955. Under subsection 1 of Section 7, what has been stated is that marriage can be solemnized according to any custom, any ceremony of either party. It means a discretion has been created in favor of either party. They can perform any ceremony, any customary rite according to which this subsection is going to understand that solemnization of marriage has occurred. When we read subsection 2 of section 7, it becomes clear to us that in case the ceremony which is performed is Saptapati, which is taking of 7 steps around the sacred fire, in that case, the minute the 7th step is taken, marriage will become binding in its nature. it will be considered as complete in its form. So it means in case the ceremony is Saptapati, all the 7 steps should have been taken for the marriage to become legitimate. Now coming back to S. Nagalingam versus Sivagami. This point was also under consideration whether Saptapati is an essential ceremony for solemnization of the marriage. Please notice both the parties to this case were residents of state of Tamil Nadu. If you look at the Bare Act, you will find that Section 7A has been incorporated as a state amendment. And in this case, Section 7A will be made applicable onto the parties. I hope you have kept your Bare Acts handy with you. You can have a quick look at Section 7A. And if you look at Section 7A, you will find it provides that two Hindus can get married to each other if they fulfill conditions which are provided under that section. It is a special provision. It states that solemnization of marriage can take place when parties in any language which is understood by them declare each other as husband or wife. Or parties can garland each other. Or they can put rings on each other's fingers. Or another ceremony which can be followed by the parties is the bridegroom tying a thali around the neck of the bride. Now, coming back to the judgment, husband here is taking a defense that essential ceremony of Saptapati was never performed. If that was not performed, then it means that his second marriage was never solemnized. If second marriage was not solemnized, then there is no offense that he has committed. But Supreme Court ultimately go on to understand that Saptapati is not an essential ceremony for a valid marriage. It's clear when you read Section 7A, state amendment is going to have an application on the facts of the cases, which does not make Saptapati as an essential ceremony to be performed between the parties. In fact, one of the eyewitnesses in this case stated that Tirumangalam was tied around the neck of the bride by the bridegroom. Witness also stated that both of them exchanged garlands and father of the bride had given his daughter away in a kanyadan. After this witness, court comes to the conclusion that a valid ceremony was adopted by both the parties to solemnize the marriage. Mind you, this is the second marriage that you're dealing with. And since the second marriage has been validly solemnized, it has been held by the Supreme Court that the offense of bigamy has been committed because all the essential ingredients provided under Section 494 of IPC has been satisfied. I would suggest you to also look at paragraph 21, which I am reading to you verbatim. Saptapati was held to be an essential ceremony for a valid marriage only in cases where it was admitted by the parties that as per the form of marriage applicable to them, that was an essential ceremony. The appellant in the instant case here is the husband. However, he had no such case that Saptapati was an essential ceremony for a valid marriage as per the personal law applicable, whereas provisions contained in Section 7A are applicable to the parties. On reading this portion of the judgment, it's clear that the court held Saptapati is not essential in all kinds of marriages. It is essential only when the parties consider it to be essential. Moreover, in this case, parties were being governed by a state amendment, the special provision of Section 7A. It never says that Saptapati is an essential ceremony. If you go back and look at Section 7 of the Hindu Marriage Act of 1955, also you will find that section is not mandating Saptapati as essential ceremony. Ultimately, the case under Section 494 of IPC was made out. Husband had solemnized second marriage and had contravened the essentials of Hindu Marriage Act of 1955, which promote monogamy. Well, thank you everyone for joining in the rule book room. Hope to see you again with another judgment. Bye.